is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, more and more officials are expressing their concern about the excessive number of police personnel stationed outside the religious compound of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ in Davao City. Meanwhile, Davao City Mayor Sebastian Duterte has a challenge for action DCPO Chief and PRO 11 Chief Nicolas Torre III will delve into that later on. Meanwhile, various groups are turning to the United Nations to investigate human rights issues and irregularities under the Marcos Jr. regime. In other news, Filipinos strongly condemn the visit of U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin to Malacanang. They believe that the 2+2 dialogue and the military alliance between the U.S. and the Philippines will not solve the country's pressing issues. For our top global stories, Japanese cities are also opposing the deepening alliance between the United States and Japan. Protesters took to the streets of the central Tokyo to denounce the 2+2 dialogue between Washington and Tokyo, as well as the American-led Quad meeting. And in Ethiopia, rescuers local continue to search for missing victims of the deadly landslide that killed hundreds of lives. I'm Deivid Lira. Newsline World starts now. First in the news, Filipinos are against the visit of the U.S. Secretary of the State Antony Blinken and Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin to Malacanang. Find out more in Almar Fursuelo's report.
Once again, Bongbong Marcos Jr. showcased to the world his deep connection with the United States following the joint courtesy call of U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin at Malacanang on Tuesday. The two American officials visited the Philippines to attend the 4th Philippine-United States 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue, a policy-level dialogue led by the Secretaries of the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA and Department of National Defense and the U.S. Department of State and Department of Defense. As expected, BBM was delighted because, with the help of a supposed allied country, he claimed that the Philippines' external defense against China would be bolstered. But the question remains, were our fellow citizens also pleased? On Tuesday, coinciding with Blinken and Austin's visit to the Philippines, Filipinos protested in various locations across Metro Manila to oppose the said dialogue. In front of Camp Aguinaldo, several militant groups protested, alongside the 2+2 dialogue between Philippine and U.S. officials. Meanwhile, the anti-imperialist movement No to War sector marched along Timog Avenue to Tomas Morato Boy Scout Rotonda in Quezon City to show their opposition to the visit of Blinken and Austin to the Philippines. According to RJ Javeliana of the anti-imperialist movement, the 2+2 dialogue is not a solution to the poverty experienced by Filipinos.
Ang tawag dito sa agreement na ito ay 2+2 bilateral military intelligence agreement. Ayaw ito ng taong bayan. Ang nais ng taong bayan, murang bigas, murang tubig, murang kuryente, pagkain, tirahan, gamot, bahay, hindi pagpapalakas ng militar, kung hindi dapat gugulin sa pang-ekonomiyang pangangailangan ng mga Pilipino.
He emphasized that Americans are only using the Philippines as a tool for a proxy war against China.
Tayo po ay gagawin lamang na pambala sa kanyon na hindi naman gera natin mga Pilipino. Isang bangag na liderato lamang, walang katinuan sa kanyang isip papasok sa isang kasunduan na hindi patas at ilalagay niya sa bingit ng kamatayan ang maraming Pilipino.
Even before Austin and Blinken arrived in the country, various sectors of society had already held protests to oppose America's exploitation of the Philippines. The said protest was called No to US BBM Proxy War. Geopolitical analyst Herman Camentong Laurel lamented that fellow Filipinos are being used by Americans to drag the country into conflict.
Isang bagong peligro po sa bayan natin po ay hindi po itong mga mananakop na dayuhan, kundi yung mga tagaloob po natin, mga kapwa Pilipino natin na nagpapagamit po sa mga panlabas na puwersa na nais sakupin ng Pilipinas ulit.
He added that he couldn't fathom why Filipinos are now supporting those who have historically harmed the Philippines.
At sa kasaysayan po ng Pilipinas, ngayon sinasabi nila kung sino-sino ang mga kalaban daw ng Pilipinas. Ang pangunahing kalaban ng Pilipinas has always been Amerika. Sila po ang dumayo po rito, nag-invade po ng Pilipinas, nag-okupa ng Pilipinas, pumatay po ng 1 milyong Pilipino noong panahon ng Phil-American War.
The group also stated that America's promise to help us with disputed territories and strengthen the Philippines' defense is false. They pointed to the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement or EDCA promoted by the Marcos administration as evidence. BBM claimed that EDCA would enhance the country's disaster response. But after Typhoon Karina left the Philippine area of responsibility, we did not feel the presence of Americans in the affected areas to provide even a small amount of aid. For God and my beloved Philippines, Almar Forzuelo, SMNA News.
Japanese protesters took to central Tokyo to denounce the security talks between Japan and the United States, saying that an alliance between both countries will only escalate the possibility of war breaking out in the Asia-Pacific region. Ria Saito with a report.
Crowds of Japanese activists have marched through central Tokyo to protest against 2+2 security talks between Japan and the United States and a Quad foreign ministers meeting. To recall, top Japanese and U.S. diplomats and defense chiefs held the Japan-U.S. Security Consultative Committee meeting known as 2+2 in Tokyo on Sunday. On Monday, they continued their discussions with a Quad meeting where the foreign ministers of Australia, India, Japan, and the U.S. addressed the maritime security and initiatives to bolster cyber defenses. In the 2+2 security talks, the U.S. announced plans for a major revamp of its military command in Japan to deepen coordination with the Japanese forces. Not far from the venue of the meeting, the protesters marched to condemn the meetings for fueling tensions in the Asia-Pacific region. According to them, strengthening U.S.-Japan military ties will only accelerate the arms race and drive Japan closer to war. Protesters also denounced the Quad meeting, saying that beefing up the security pact will only fuel tensions in the region amid ongoing conflicts across the globe. Reporting from Tokyo, Japan, this has been Ria Saito, your global citizen correspondent for God and our beloved country, the Philippines.
Davao City Mayor Sebastian Basse Duterte has commented on the excessive police presence outside the KOJC compound. MJ Madahar reports.
Morning, noon, afternoon, night, and even midnight. The police presence outside the religious compound of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ or KOJC here in Davao City is very intense. The police claim that they're just maintaining visibility. However, the close proximity of their checkpoints, all facing the KOJC religious compound, is noticeable. Even the PNP Highway Patrol Group frequently monitors vehicles outside the compound. The complaints from KOJC members have reached City Mayor Sebastian Duterte.
Ako na-declare mo kung war on drugs nga as it could be figuratively or literally, pero ingon ko declare ta na mas serious na sa nga problema gyud compare nimo sa kung unsa man gina-accuse nila of Pastor Kibuloy.
Mayor Duterte questioned the excessive police presence outside the church, the site of police abuse on June 10, 2024, during a violent search for Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy.
And it does not directly affect the lives of individual Filipinos or Davaoenos actually. Unya karon nagsige silang kalas og oras diha nga wa mang nay hinungdan inefficient unang-unas tanan na ikaduha kuan grave abuse of authority gyud.
The once peaceful lives of KOJC missionaries in their Davao compound have been disrupted. They have vowed to continue guarding the church property. Mayor Duterte promised support to the KOJC members. hoping the harassment under the Marcos Jr. administration will end soon.
Ako, mas moron, they are hilarious. They are, katawanan na ilang ginabuhat. Kaya yung una na sila ka-immature o wala sa gihimo nilang murag playground nila. Buhato nila unsa nilang gusto without even referring to the law. Bisag pareha to nahitabo ko.
We sought the comment of the Davao City PNP on the issue and said that only top officials from the Philippine National Police Headquarters and Quezon City are allowed to comment on the matter regarding the good pastor. For Ganababalo Philippines, MJ Mondeha, SM9 News.
The widespread flooding in Metro Manila seems like a judgment coming from above on the current administration after thousands of flood control projects boasted about Bongbong Marcos Jr. in his third State of the Nation address failed. Here's the report from Hannah Jen Central.
Nagsasalita yung presidente natin pero may hustisya kasi ang langit. God is watching. So sa nangyayari ngayon, makikita natin, pinapakita sa mukha natin, anong klaseng pamahalaan meron? Anong klaseng utak ng leader meron? Huwag na nating hintayin na meron pang kalamidad kasi sa nangyayari ngayon, we know that God is intervening in this country.
This is the statement of Sister Eleanor Cardona, the Executive Secretary of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, at a press conference held last Friday, July 26. To recall, in his third State of the Nation address, President Bongbong Marcos Jr. boasted thousands of flood control projects and massive cleanup drives, and these were immediately put to the test. However, the result was great devastation, with widespread flooding that caused a state of calamity in various parts of Luzon due to the torrential rains brought by the southwest monsoon or Habagat and Typhoon Karina. According to the Executive Secretary of KOJC, this is a divine judgment on the current leadership of the Philippines.
Talagang ang Diyos na rin ang parang nag-intervene. Totoo. Kasi sa mga nangyayari ngayon, kagaya nga ang nature na ngayon ang parang humuhusga sa mga sinasabi ng ating presidente. Nakikita natin kung ano na ang nangyayari ngayong hatol sa nangyayari sa ating bansa.
Tons of garbage piled up on the streets. Last week, aside from climate change, Marcos also blamed the public for improper waste disposal, which caused severe flood in Metro Manila. However, according to Sister Cardona,
walang nakapigil. Ang dami pa niyang reason kung bakit ganon. Marami silang alibay. Ito yung itsura ng Pilipinas ngayon. Trash, basura, kalamidad. Nagre-reflect yan, di ba, sa utak ng leader. Kung ano ang leader, yun yung nakikita natin.
Meanwhile, SMNI anchors criticized the government's failed disaster response.
30 hours pa po after nag-react si Mr. Marcos na bumabaha na at nalulunod ang mamamayan sa Metro Manila at sa paligid ng mga rehiyon. Hindi nyo ba nararamdaman ito? 30 hours bago mag-react ang presidente and the only thing that he can do is magkaway-kaway sa military truck at magbigay ng abubot at adborluloy sa mga tao. And he cannot command a conference how to orchestrate a whole of government mobilization in times of crisis. Failure of leadership, miserable failure of governance ang nakikita natin kay Mr. Marcos.
Sana magising-gising na rin po ang ating Pangulo dahil iba ho ang kumilos pag Panginoon na. Kasi kung nakita nyo naman yung nangyari sa SONA pinagyabang ninyo yung achievement yung basura at yung achievement nyo sa baha. Kinabukasan, tinambakan ng basura at ng baha. Yun po ay, ayan ay sabi nga ng iban ano na po yan, galaw na po ng Diyos yan.
Kung maayos yung leader, maayos yung kanyang pag-iisip, maayos yung kanyang pamamahala, hindi hahantong sa ganito ang sitwasyon ng ating bansa.
In the end, the KOJC urged the people to wake up and not wait for another disaster to occur due to the failed government of the current administration.
For our part, sa KOJC, nakita naman natin, maraming nagtetestify, hindi lang kami, parang self-serving magsalita. Pero, kung napapansin nyo, kung ano ang kultura, kultura ng kingdom, kung ano ang kultura ng mga mamamayan, kung anong nasa isip. Nagre-reflect kasi yun kung anong kapaligiran natin. Kaya nananawagan na kami ngayon sa Pilipinas, ano ba talaga ang dapat na magiging leader natin dito sa bansa? Kailangan talagang matino. Mag-isip-isip na tayo kung tama pa ba? Nasa tamang pag-iisip pa ba yung pamahalaan natin sa nangyari ngayong kalamidad? Hintay pa ba tayo ng ibang kalamidad? Huwag na natin pong hintayin na meron na namang judgment na magbababat sa bansang ito at sa pamahalaang ito.
The KOJC reminds those behind efforts to bring down Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy and the KOJC that evil will never prevail. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SMLI News.
Indigenous blind victims of the illegal search operation conducted by the CIDG PNP SAF in Kitbog, Sarangani Province on June 10 have filed new and multiple cases in Sarangani Province. Details from Jen Domingo.
After the legal search operation conducted by CIDG PNP SAF in Kitbog, Sarangani Province on June 10, the indigenous blood victims have filed additional cases in Sarangani Province. It can be recalled that the search operation was illegal, not only because the indigenous community was not included in the areas that should be searched on June 10, but also because the police forcibly evicted the indigenous people from their homes at 3 in the morning using high-caliber weapons. No one was spared. Children or the elderly, even those who were ill, were forced out, causing intense fear and trauma, which eventually led to the death of 2 indigenous people. The deceased were from the Lagunsay family, including William Lagunsay's father and wife. According to the survivors of the victims, the deaths were caused by the intense fear and trauma experienced. Based on the account of William Lagunsay, they even prepared coffee and invited the police into their home, not thinking it would lead to the death of his father and wife. Meanwhile, some of the cases filed in Sarangani Province by the Bilaans, as promised in their pursuit of justice, with the help of the KOJC Legal Counsel, include violation of domicile, other forms of trespass, grave coercion, interruption of religious worship, offending religious feelings, arbitrary detention, grave threat, and unjust fixation. The only unified request of the complainants is to attain justice, and because of this, the KOJC Legal Counsel announced that more cases are being prepared for the grievous actions of the police on June 10 in Sitio Biangan and Buyo-Buyo.
I'd just like to add na even then, sa Kitbog, hindi pa yun kumpleto. That was just, yung final today is just the second wave of the cases that we are going to file there in Kitbog alone. So imagine that during June 10 na incident, it was not only Kitbog that was inatake nila. Meron pang Central, meron pang Tamayong. So we are just reporting sa assign sa amin. So second wave in Kitbog, meron pang more na papadating. And we are building more cases, potential cases in Kitbog compound alone.
We filed cases in General Santos, in Alabel, Sarangani Province, against several public officials. And there are 11 complainants who are all indigenous peoples, and we filed several cases per person. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One complainant, I think, has 6 cases against these public officials. I will not name you because I want you to be surprised, because then at least you know it's nice to be surprised. At least it will keep you on your toes. and perhaps make you less onion-skinned. Okay, so we have 11 complainants who filed various cases, minimum of at least 3 cases per public official. And there are about 8 public officials who are named and several John Does. So, yan po ang mga kaso na na-file na namin. Just to read, violation of domicile, other forms of trespass, grave coercion, interruption of religious worship, offending religious feelings, and arbitrary detention. So, ito po lahat yung sa incident lang po ito sa Kitbog. This has nothing to do yet with the incidents that happened in Prayer Mountain, in Glory Mountain, and here in the central headquarters of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Sa Kitbog lang po ito, which is a very remote area and involved simple citizens who are indigenous. Those who, when we were asking them to sign, they were saying, mas mabuti pa maghagbas sila kesa sa pumirma kasi hindi ho sila sanay pumirma. May mga iba sa kanila. Mas mabuti pa to gawin nila yon kesa sa pumirma because they are simple folk. But they have filed the cases already and there are 11 people who have filed cases. So please wait for some more. We have some other gifts for you in the future.
For God and my beloved country, this has been Jean Domingo, SM9 News.
A counselor in Davao City finds the explanation of the police official amusing regarding the larger number of police officers outside a major church in the city. MJ Madahar with the details.
The Davao City Council has noticed the excessive police force outside the religious compound of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, or KOJC, in Davao City. The daily police presence in the area traumatized church members, especially after the violent operation by PNP SAF and CIDG on June 10, 2024, when they sought to serve an arrest warrant on KOJC spiritual leader, Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy. City Councilor Teco Campo directly heard from the leadership of the Police Regional Office 13 about the reasons for the checkpoints as surprise operations by the PNP Highway Patrol Group outside the compound.
Ganito yan. Nag-attend ako ng I was able to meet General Torre last week. He explained na kaya daw bakit may checkpoint dyan sa KOJC compound, sa harap. Harap mismo, no? Harap. Sabi niya, strategic point ba yan? Pinag-aralan daw siya.
General Torre further explained to Councilor Ocampo that the highway outside the KOJC compound is an exit point for criminals. This is why they increased the number of police officers there. But according to Councilor Ocampo,
kasi daw, kung dito ka daw sa Buhangin, marami dong daanan, nakalimutan niya na before Katitipan, nandyan ang papuntang Kabantian at lalabas yan doon sa Panabo, lalabas din doon sa Tibungko, lalabas dyan sa Panakan. So there are many exit points.
For Davao City Mayor Sebastian Duterte, it seems that the Marcos administration is treating their city like a playground, especially with what the Marcos Jr. administration is doing to the entire KOJC.
Gihimo nilang murag playground nila, buhato nila unsa nilang gusto without even referring to the law.
The City Council laughed off the explanation of PNP Davao. But for Ocampo, one thing is certain, the people of the city are discerning and can distinguish liars from truthful ones.
Kasi doon daw, yun ang reason niya na doon yan nilagay sa KOJC compound. Pero according to yung pinag-aralan doon niya, that's the only exit point. Sabi ko, paano maging exit point yun? Na kung dadaan ka dito sa may Mamay Road going to Kabantian, lalabas ka man ng Tibungko, Panakan, you can go to Panabo, Pakibato, maraming exit points dyan.
For Government of Philippines, MJ Mondeha, SM9 News.
Even senators are concerned about PNP chief Maribel's withdrawal of security personnel from Vice President Sara Duterte. Lawmakers in the Senate expressed support for Vice President Sara Duterte after she released an open letter to PNP chief Romel Marbel. Carlo de la Peña will tell us more.
3 senators expressed concern over the political harassment experienced by Vice President Sara Duterte. This follows the removal of 75 PNP personnel assigned to the Vice Presidential Security and Protection Group, or VPSPG, without prior notice. Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa was the first to call on former personnel of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police to volunteer as security escorts for VP Inday. Senator Bato appealed on his social media account after Vice President Inday Sara released an open letter to Philippine National Police Chief General Romel Marbil. In her letter, VP Inday called the act political harassment and PNP Chief Marbil a liar. Senator Robin Padilla echoed Senator Bato's appeal on social media. Padilla praised Bato, a former PNP chief, for his actions. Padilla then called on former rebels to volunteer as security escorts for the Vice President. Padilla wants former rebels skilled in martial arts to register at the office of the Vice President. The senator believes it is an honor to serve under Duterte's leadership, who was the former vice chairperson of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict or NTF-LCAC. In relation to this, Senator Bongo reminded the PNP not to be selective and to do their job correctly. According to Go, the police should remain faithful to their sworn duty and not serve any political agenda.
Mahal po namin kayo. Kaya lang po, ang pakiusap ko lang naman po, lalong-lalo na sa panahon ng pagsubok na nangyari sa ating bansa, napaalala ko lang po sa liderato at sa buong hanay ng pambansang pulisya na manatiling tapat sa kanilang sinumpang tungkulin at huwag magpagamit sa anumang political na agenda.
Go revealed that apart from VP Sara, he was also among those whose security personnel were withdrawn by the PNP 3 weeks ago. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
Various groups will approach the United Nations to investigate issues on human rights and irregularities under the President Bongbong Marcos Jr. MJ Mudahar for the details.
Various groups from the Philippines carried out a symbolic protest in front of the United Nations headquarters in the United States. They're calling for justice against the irregularities of President Bongbong Marcos Jr.'s administration.
Crimes against humanity, violations of International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, violations of international humanitarian law, and the International Covenant on Economic and Social and Cultural Rights committed by the Philippine government as presided by Mr. Marcos.
Among the groups protesting against Marcos Jr. include United Indigenous Peoples Heritage of the Philippines, Sentrong Alyansang Mamamayan, SMNI, Hakbang na Maisog USA, U.S Pinoys for Real Change, and other civic groups. The group condemned the excessive persecution to the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, particularly its spiritual leader, Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy. Pastor Apollo is known for being one of the top prominent figures who supported Bongbong Marcos during his 2022 presidential campaign. This is especially evident after the violent June 10, 2024 operations by PNP SAF and CIDG and KOJC religious compounds, where 2 indigenous people died from severe trauma. Moreover, the Marcos Jr. administration has been harassing critics, including imposing suspension orders on elected officials.
In the amount of estimated to be 1.14 billion pesos or roughly $20 million commensurate to the damages as mentioned above.
With that, veteran political commentator Jay Sonsa explained how important it is to discuss the abuses of the Marcos administration in the international arena, especially since there's no hope for justice from the current administration for Pastor Apollo.
Nag-file tayo ng motion for reconsideration sa DOJ. Hanggang ngayon, awa ng Diyos, inanod na ng baha nung Habagat at saka ni Karina. Hindi pa rin nagalaw. Mamamatay na lang, titirik na lang ang mata ni Boying. Mukhang walang kapag-apag-asa. Kaya, paano ka hindi lalapit sa United Nations? Yun lang. Ayaw man sana natin, kaya lang, we have to. They left us with no choice.
Ito po ay panimulang paglalakbay sa katarungan at paghahanap po ng pananagutan mula kay Mr. Marcos.
The said civil groups are attempting to file a formal complaint before the United Nations this coming September in a rage to put President Bongbong Marcos in the international spotlight. For Government of the Philippines, MJ Mondeha, SMNI News.
Confidential and intelligence funds have decreased in the proposed 2025 national budget, according to the DBN. Meanwhile, unprogrammed funds in the 2025 National Expenditure Program have reached over 158 billion pesos. Crisaline Cataron will give us the details.
There is a significant decrease in confidential and intelligence funds, or CIFs, under the proposed 2025 national budget compared to its allocation in the 2024 General Appropriations Act. According to Department of Budget and Management Secretary Amena Pangandaman, the agency approved a total of 10.29 billion pesos for CIFs, with 4.37 billion pesos allocated for confidential expenses and 5.92 billion pesos for intelligence expenses. In the 2024 GAA, the allocation for confidential and intelligence funds was approximately 12.38 billion pesos. Pangandaman stated that the allocation for confidential and intelligence funds in the 2025 National Expenditure Program decreased by 16% compared to its allocation in the 2024 GAA. The Secretary revealed that DBM received a total CIF budget proposal of 11.39 billion pesos from various agencies, with more than 5 billion pesos for confidential funds and more than 6 billion pesos for intelligence funds. The budget chief emphasized that agencies must adhere to guidelines for using confidential and intelligence funds. Budget Secretary Pangandaman mentioned that CIFs will be allocated to the Department of the Interior and Local Government, Philippine National Police, Department of Justice, Department of National Defense, Department of Transportation, Anti-Money Laundering Council, Games and Amusement Board, National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, National Security Council, Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation and Unity, Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, Office of the Ombudsman, and other agencies. However, Pangandaman did not mention the Office of the Vice President among the agencies to be allocated confidential funds in 2025. The Office of the President, on the other hand, will have 4.5 billion pesos in confidential and intelligence funds allocation for the proposed 2025 national budget, the same amount as allocated for the office in 2024.
The rest are very minimal amount, like Commission on Human Rights, Commission Audit. So we just, kaya po siya bumaba, we just limited it to the departments and agencies na nangangailangan ng confidential and intel funds.
Meanwhile, Pangandaman revealed that the Unprogrammed Appropriations Fund for fiscal year 2025 amounts to more than 158 billion pesos. The Secretary explained that unprogrammed funds serve as reserve resources that the government can access in response to emergencies and unforeseen events. The Secretary also mentioned that measures are in place to prevent misuse of the Unprogrammed Appropriations Fund for fiscal year 2025. Pangandaman assured the public that there are strong safeguards, particularly for the contingent fund. The amount allocated for the contingent fund remains the same as in previous years at 13 billion pesos. To recall, the DBM officially submitted the 2025 NEP to the House of Representatives on July 29 this year. For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Crisaline Cataron, SMNI News.
Following the closure and prohibition of POGO operations, the Bureau of Immigration anticipates that thousands of foreign nationals will exit the Philippines by the end of this year. Margot Gonzalez reports.
The Bureau of Immigration or BI hopes for the peaceful departure of foreign nationals working for Philippine Gaming Offshore Operators or POGO. This follows a directive to ban POGO operations in the country. BI spokesperson Dana Sandoval is urging POGO workers to leave the country voluntarily and to coordinate with immigration for visa downgrading.
Do it voluntarily. Magpunta na po sa Bureau of Immigration at mag-downgrade na po ng inyong mga visa, isurrender na po ang inyong mga status at umalis po ng bansa. At inaasahan po natin na magiging mapayapa naman po itong implementation ng ating order to leave for these foreign nationals working in online gaming companies. So upon dissolution of their company, upon filing po of the downgrading, within 60 days they have to leave the country already.
The BI expects around 20,000 foreigners to leave the country by year-end following the POGO ban. Most of them are said to be Chinese nationals.
Ang target po natin, ang nakikita po natin more or less there would be around 20,000 foreign nationals of various nationalities po na aalis up until the end of the year. Although ito po ay of various nationalities, sa tingin po natin majority nito siguro mga 75 or 80% would be Chinese nationals and the rest po are distributed na to different nationalities.
If POGO workers fail to comply within the given time frame, the government will proceed with their deportation.
Kasama po yun doon sa mga order to leave natin. Within the year po ang sinabi po ng ating Pangulo. So 2 months before the end of the year po, ina-expect po natin na for downgrading na lahat po ng mga foreign nationals na ito. Kapag hindi po sila tumupad doon sa sinasabi po na kailangan ay umalis na po sila within that given period of time, they will be subjected to deportation proceedings already. Kapag deportation proceedings na po, magiging paaalisin na po sila at ipapadeport na po sila. Unlike ngayon na they would be asked to voluntarily leave during the winding down period.
The BI meanwhile clarified that they are no longer accepting visa applications for online gaming companies, including internet gaming licenses or IGL.
Yes, no more. Immediately right after the State of the Nation address po ng ating Pangulo, ipinatigil na rin po ni Commissioner Tansinko ang pagpoproseso ng any applications for new visas or permits ng mga online gaming companies, whether it be licensed by PAGCOR. Alinsunod na rin po sa direktiba ng ating Pangulo.
For God and beloved Philippines, this has been Margaret Gonzalez, SMNI News.
Up next, the city of Caracas, Venezuela turned deadly as anti-Maduro protesters clashed with Venezuelan police on the streets. They are opposing President Nicolas Maduro's re-election victory in the presidential polls. The opposition claimed that Maduro's re-election was a fraud and that their candidate, Edmundo Gonzalez, has actually received more votes. And Sudan is facing a severe clean drinking water crisis as internal conflict between two factions engulfs the country, with the capital of the epicenter of the violence. Newsline World will be back after the break.
Abangan ng Banateros tuwing Lunes hanggang Huwebes, live dito lang sa SMNI.
Yan ang Banateros, walang inuurungan. Pag tama palakpakan, pag mali ay babanatan. Yan ang Banateros.
Sabi nga nila, di ba? You will know them by their love. Yun ang sinabi sa Biblia. It's not on how good you are in quoting the scripture. It's giving love.
Grabe, hindi talaga hindi talaga kasya yung words eh. Kung paano natin i-express yung ating na-experience.
Mismo wala akong masabi. Kita ko kasi yung pagiging generous. Alam mo, madali kasi magsalita ng Diyos eh. Pero pagdating sa pera, pagdating sa pagiging generous, yung pagtulong sa iba, hindi biro yun. Maraming bagsak dyan. Maraming bagsak. Kaya ako nakikita ko yung pagiging generous niya. Hindi sa salita eh. Sa lakad. Bilib ako. Hindi dakdak. Nakita mo sa gawa. In one word, authentic. Kung akong tatanungin, kahit saang aspeto, gusto ko garantisado. Metikuloso akong tao, kaya gusto ko lahat maayos at sigurado. Lahat quality, yung hindi ako makukompromiso, pero sulit ang presyo. Ganyan ang Clean Fuel, kaya dito, panatag ang loob ko.
Magandang umaga po, sir.
utang. Kung gusto mo ng dekalidad na gasolina pero sulit ang halaga, mag-clean fuel ka.
Children will grow up and bring the joy, the love, the peace, and compassion to the whole world. We only have one planet. We only have one Earth. And I hope that this new generation of children that we have reached out will become millions and billions and bring peace on Earth. Bring peace to humanity. Ang buot sa Diyos, kitang mga katawhan, tunay espiritong mupadayon o muantos. Kay dakitan sa Diyos sa unahan, basta mahimo ka ng anak sa Ginoo sa gingharian, daghan ang mga pagsulay. Kung way pagantos, di ka makalahutay. Kung walay pagkamakanunayon, dili gyapon ka makalahutay. Ang tuyo sa Diyos, nga ang matagos nga gitawag, makalahutay. Makalahutay lamang sa mga pagsulay kundili sa pagtubo nga makaabot siya sa ikaupat nga laka nga dito na manukat ang iyang reward.
Back in the news, former Malacanang spokesperson Attorney Harry Roque believes that if something happens to Vice President Sara Duterte, PNP Chief Rommel Marbel will be considered a prime suspect after he removed dozens of cops and her security. Details with Margaret Gonzalez has the details.
I am on the record as saying, pag minangyari kay BP Sara, suspect si Marbel.
Former Malacanang spokesperson Attorney Harry Roque made this statement after the Philippine National Police reduced 75 police personnel from Vice President Sara Duterte's security detail and her subsequent open letter to the PNP chief. According to Roque, the public may perceive that reducing the VP's security personnel puts her life at risk.
Iisipin ng tao, kaya pala tinanggalan ng pulis para magkaroon ng pagkakataon na mapatay si BP Sara. That's on him. That's on him. I am on the record as saying, pag minangyari kay BP Sara, suspect si Marbel.
It has been discovered that the security personnel removed from VP Sara have long been providing security for the Vice President. Some of them have been part of her security team since her time as Mayor of Davao. According to Roque, it is clear that there is a plan against VP Sara.
Ang seguridad, kapag hindi mo pinagkakatiwalaan ang nagbibigay ng seguridad, wala ka rin seguridad. So, ang importante, hindi lang merong tao na nagtalaga na magbantay sa'yo, kung hindi, mas importante na pinagkakatiwalaan mo yung mga taong nagbabantay sa'yo. Ako malinaw, baka may plano sila laban kay BP Sara at laban sa lahat sa amin na tinanggalan ng security. Kaya nga po, pag may nangyari sa amin, ang unang suspect po dyan, yung mga nagtanggal na aming mga tao na nagbibigay ng seguridad. Di ba obvious naman yun?
Roque also commented on the PNP's visit to the Vice President's residence to conduct casing, as mentioned in her open letter. He said that part of their plan against VP Sara could involve falsely accusing her of crimes.
Bakit tinuturing na kalaban ang ating Vice President samantalang siyang pinakamangalawang mataas na opisyales? Alam mo, yung katunggali na si Lenny nung panahon ni dating Presidente Duterte, ang alam ko dyan, minsan hindi yan tinuring na banta para i-casing ang kanyang pamamahay. No? So ngayon talaga, malinaw na baka meron talaga silang mga plano na sa susunod na mga panahon, pagbintangan, bigyan ng paratang ng krimen laban kay BP Sara at tuluyan ng arestuhin. At nandyan din siyempre yung usap-usapan na dahil siya ay dinawit ng mga teroristang CPP, NPA, doon sa kaso na nakabinbin ngayon kay dating Presidente Rodrigo Roa Duterte sa ICC na mukhang, at lumalabas naman, no, alinsunod dito sa revelation na kinikisig ang bahay niya, mukhang talagang may intensyon na ipakulong sa Hague ang mag-amang Duterte nang sa ganon yung kanilang kandidato para sa Presidente na walang pag-asang manalo bilang Presidente magkaroon ng tsansa man lang. So malinaw po yan na talagang political harassment po talaga ang nangyayari.
Meanwhile, Marbel avoided media inquiries regarding Vice President's open letter and advised consistently telling the truth to avoid complicating matters.
Natatakot na pag nagsalita pa siya, baka upakan siya ni BP Sara.
Marbel was once reprimanded by the Kingdom of Jesus Christ for being rude when the PNP chief said that Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy was not a pastor.
Hindi lang yan kabastusan. Yan ay isang napakalaking paglabag sa karapatang pantao. Dahil ang karapatan na magkaroon ng pananampalataya at kumilala ng mga pastor, kabahagi ng karapatan ng malayang pananampalataya. Freedom of religion. At yan po'y nakakalungkot dahil ang kapulisan, sila dapat ang nagpapatupad ng batas at nagsisiguro na ang kapulisan ay rinirespeto ang karapatang pantao. By way of example, yung pagtawag ni Marbel kay Pastor Apollo Kibuloy na hindi pastor, yan ay ehemplo na dapat labagin ang karapatang pantao na magkaroon ng karapatan ng malayang pananampalataya.
For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Mark Gonzalez, SMNI News.
Both Israel and Hamas are blaming each other for not reaching a ceasefire deal for Gaza, with the latter accusing the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of adding new conditions in the deal. Federico Veloso reports.
Hamas announced that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has introduced new conditions and demands to a U.S. proposal aimed at stabilizing a ceasefire in Gaza. In a press release issued on Monday, Hamas stated that they were informed by the mediators about the recent developments from the Rome meeting, concerning the ceasefire and prisoner exchange negotiations. According to Hamas, the new conditions introduced by Netanyahu represent a retreat from an earlier draft communicated by the mediators. To recall, on Sunday, senior officials from Israel, Qatar, Egypt, and the United States convened in Rome to discuss the ceasefire agreement and hostage deal. However, Netanyahu's office on Monday also released a statement claiming that the leadership of Hamas is preventing an agreement. The Israeli Prime Minister's office also denied that the Jewish state had made changes to the draft outline. Prime Minister Netanyahu's office stressed that it continues to stand by the principles of the original outline, which it said featured maximizing the number of living hostages, Israeli control over the Philadelphia corridor, and preventing the passage of terrorists, weapons, and ammunition to the northern Gaza Strip. This has been Federico Veloso, your Global Citizen correspondent for SMNI News.
Aside from food, Sudan's capital is facing a clean drinking water crisis as clashes between two warring forces rages on. Rater Omori has the story.
The people of Khartoum are in need of clean drinking water. The capital is facing a clean drinking water crisis amid escalating clashes between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces. According to the United Nations Children's Fund, over 17.3 million Sudanese people lacked access to clean drinking water, even before the armed conflict broke out in April 2023. The clashes have damaged multiple facilities supplying water to the capital. Many water and power supply stations have become targets of armed forces. Some armed personnel have seized control of water supply stations and turned them into military bases, which restricts their use or even shuts them down, making it more difficult for local people to obtain clean drinking water. The lack of management personnel and repair parts has also led to interruptions in the water supply network across various areas for several months, leaving hundreds of thousands of households without access to water. Some neighborhoods in Khartoum have been without water for nearly a year. Residents are forced to use horse-drawn carriages or carts to travel to the Nile River to fetch water. However, those who cannot fetch water themselves can only buy untreated water coming from the river, which costs as much as 500 Sudanese pounds or about $0.85. Residents continue to suffer from the severe impact of the violent clashes, hoping for the conflict to end soon.
والله يا رب والله تعبنا تعب شديد شديد. احنا لسه مويه ما عندنا مويه عشان نشرب ما في شفنا يعني مويه ما في نعمل شنو.
المشكله هي مشكله ضخ المويه من الجماير حسب اراء المسؤولين. مشينا قابلناهم اكثر من مره فبقول انه في مشكله في الجماير عشان الجماير دي الناس تصلها دايرين اذن ناس الكهرباء ديل من الاستخبارات والجيش.
اتمنى ربنا يوقف الحرب ده لكل الناس مش في السودان بس في كل العالم يعني الحرب ده طبعا عدو اكبر عدو دول للبشر والصراحه الشعب السوداني يعاني معاناه شديد جدا جدا يعني نحن في يوم واحد بينقل مويه بعد المويه تمشي فتره ليش للاولاد تجي راجع بعد يشتغل.
Reporting from Dubai, I'm Gratero Omori, your Global Citizen correspondent for SMNI News Channel.
Russia has taken control of a settlement located in the eastern Donetsk region, while Ukraine has launched attacks on substation in Russia's western Kursk Oblast. Federico Veloso tells us more.
The Russian Defense Ministry announced that their forces captured Valchy, destroying Ukrainian tanks, armored vehicles, howitzers, and other military equipment in the process. The Russian military targeted personnel and equipment in 127 areas, claiming to have destroyed a Ukrainian Su-25 fighter jet and downed 68 Ukrainian drones. On the same day, the Ukrainian Armed Forces General Staff reported that a task force from the Security Service of Ukraine, working with other units, attacked several substations in Russia's Kursk Oblast. The Ukrainian side described these substations as legitimate military targets because they were used for transporting Russian weapons by rail. Ukrainian strikes caused blackouts in several regions of Russia's Kursk Oblast, escalating the conflict between the two nations. Both sides are engaged in heavy exchanges of fire, with each claiming significant losses and damages inflicted on the other. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, as of June 30 this year, there have been 33,878 recorded civilian casualties in Ukraine since February 24, 2022. This total includes about 11,284 killed and 22,594 injured. However, the agency believes that the actual number is higher. This has been Federico Veloso, your global citizen correspondent for SMNI News.
Thousands of residents have been evacuated following a dike breach that occurred at the river in Hunan, China. Chatmogon Pisamegozon reports.
Local rescuers in central China's Hunan province have completed evacuating over 3,800 residents from a village submerged in flood waters. No casualties have been reported so far. The village was flooded after a nearby river's dike was breached on Sunday. Hunan has been experiencing heavy rains since Saturday evening. Chinese rescue forces rushed to the village to evacuate them overnight. Many rescue workers' skins became reddened, swollen, and irritated due to long-time exposure to the floodwaters. Meanwhile, temporary shelters have been set up in 4 local schools to accommodate the evacuated residents, providing supplies and medical care. Reporting from Thailand, I'm Shadmongkon Bisamagoson, your global citizens correspondent for SMNI News Channel.
In the latest update on the Venezuelan polls, violent clashes broke out between the police and protesters opposing President Maduro's victory in the recently held national elections. Federico Veloso reports.
Violent clashes broke out in the city center of Caracas between the Venezuelan National Guard and protesters who are against President Nicolas Maduro's victory in the presidential election. The police deployed tear gas in an attempt to disperse the crowds. Protesters responded by setting tires and trash on fire, with some hurling stones at advancing law enforcement officers who were equipped with shields and full riot gear. Venezuela's electoral authorities declared President Nicolas Maduro the winner of the presidential election. Elvis Amoroso, the head of the National Electoral Council, or CNE, announced that with 80% of the ballots counted, Maduro secured 51% of the vote, while his main rival Edmundo Gonzalez received 44%. However, the Venezuelan opposition dismissed the CNE's announcement, claiming that Gonzalez had won up to 70% of the vote, although no evidence was supplied to support this claim. This led to widespread protests in Caracas and other cities in Venezuela, along with significant celebrations of Maduro's victory. Maduro himself described the result as a triumph of peace and stability. Having first come to power in 2013 following the death of President Hugo Chavez, Maduro has now secured a historic third consecutive term. This has been Federico Veloso, your global citizen correspondent for SMNI News.
In Ethiopia, the search for victims and missing people continues after massive landslides hit the Gofa zone last week, killing hundreds of people. Melchizedek Cadiz for the story.
Rescuers and volunteers continue to dig through the mud as they desperately search for missing people. On the other side are residents with pictures of their missing loved ones, hoping that their bodies will be recovered. To recall, hundreds of people were killed after massive landslides hit Gofa zone last Sunday after days of heavy downpours in the mountainous region. Another landslide happened last Monday, killing even more people, including rescuers. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed visited the Gofa zone on Saturday to offer his condolences to the families and relatives of the landslide victims. The ongoing operation was supported by local authorities and assisted by the Ethiopian Red Cross Society as well as community members.
ከቤተሰቦቼ እንግዲህ እኔ ቆሜ ማልቀስ ያለብኝ 13 ሰው አጋጣሚ አጥቻለሁ። ከነዛ መካከል 12ቱ ተገኝተዋል። ትላንት እና ትላንት ወዲያ ቀብር ስነ ስርዓት ሁሉ ተፈጽሟል። አሁን አንድ እህቴ እስካሁን አልተገኘችም። ዛሬ እንግዲህ ከሰኞ ጀምሮ ወደ አራተኛ ቀን አስቆጥረናል።
እሺ ያኮት ሄደ ወደ ከታይ ወዲያ ደ ያሎ ሲንሰብን ተካ ጌዶ ቢኑኒ ሀደሪያ ወላ እቂን እንት ወዳስ ዱገው ቢዶሱና ቢዲዛ ተናማች ወዳዳ ያን ወዳ ይወድሲስ ኩንዳስ.
Local authorities say at least 257 people died in the disaster, while the United Nations Humanitarian Agency expects the death toll to potentially double to around 500. However, the exact number of missing individuals is still unclear. Reporting from Kuwait, I am Melchizedek Cadiz, your global citizen correspondent for God and for our beloved country, the Philippines.
An explosion rocked a German chemical plant, injuring more than a dozen people, including firefighters. Andejo Souza will tell us more.
18 people, including 7 firefighters, suffered injuries in an explosion at BASF chemical plant located in western Germany. According to BASF, the explosion occurred in the southern wing of the factory and was extinguished by the plant's fire brigade. Some staff had minor injuries and were treated on site. Locals were told to keep windows closed due to slightly elevated hydrocarbon levels. Later, BASF in the city of Ludwigshafen said there was no cause for concern. The BASF plant in Ludwigshafen, reportedly the world's largest integrated chemical complex, covers roughly 10 square kilometers. The company has started an investigation to determine the cause of the explosion. I'm André Souza, your global citizen correspondent for SMNI News.
Controversial pass aside, Davao City Mayor Sebastian Duterte is ready to give actions. Davao City Police Office Chief Colonel Hansel Maratan a chance. Mayor Bassett also criticized Police Regional Director Nicolas Torres III. Let's find out more about this in Hannah Jen Sancho's report.
A chance. This is what Davao City Mayor Sebastian Bassett Duterte is giving to acting Davao City Police Office Police Chief Colonel Hansel Marantan to prove himself to the people of Davao, while also challenging PNP Region 11 Director Nicolas Torres III regarding his assessment of the peace and order in the city.
And I just told him, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Anak ko siya, I will welcome you. Ano lang ko. Mayon ta, hoping that you will do your job.
This was Davao City Mayor Bassett Duterte's response regarding the courtesy call of acting Davao City Police Office Chief Colonel Hansel Marantan to his office recently. According to Mayor Bassett, since Marantan has not yet accomplished anything in his job, he will give him a chance to serve the people of Davao.
We will wait na to. Like I said, I told Marantan, berihan ako akong portahan para niya. Kaya, di man po nakusag. Wala pa siya nahimo pa. Di pa rin aning tore, patakagyaw-yaw. Okay? So, kani si Marantan, paman siya giingon, paman siya gibuhat, siya ka ng mga analysis dyan ng masag-asa ng gipunit. Sige lang. Let's give him a chance. Tanaw na to. Kasi gusto mo trabaho yun sa tao.
To recall, the Davao City Council summoned Marantan due to the questionable nature of his appointment as acting Davao City Police Office Chief. The council emphasized that the appointment of Marantan, who was not included in the shortlist submitted by the PNP to Mayor Baste, was a violation of the authority of the local government of Davao. The proper process for selecting a chief of police for a city or municipality requires the local chief executive to choose from a shortlist submitted by the PNP. This is clearly stated in Republic Act 6975 or the Department of the Interior and Local Government Act of 1991 as amended by RA 8551 or the Philippine National Police Reform and Reorganization Act of 1998, as well as in NAPOLCOM Circular 2002-011. Colonel Marantan previously expressed uncertainty about whether the people of Davao want him or not. This poses a challenge for him to gain acceptance from Davaoenos. Colonel Marantan made this statement during his appearance before the Davao City Council. Marantan also said that talk is cheap, but he hopes to be given time before his ability to serve is questioned. Councilor Tech Ocampo of the 1st District stated that the Davao City Council is questioning the process of his appointment as acting DCPO chief because it clearly violated the law.
Hindi naman hindi siya welcome. Nagsalita naman ng mayor natin na bigyan siya ng pagkakataon na i-prove yung kanyang worth. Ang dulan naman kami nagtatanong in fairness to Colonel Marantan. Tinatanong naman namin ang procedure kung bakit siya naitalaga nga. Kasi as far as I know, under the law, sa local government code, may karapatan din ang city mayor na magpili ng kanyang mga gagawing city director mula sa 5 list, no? Listahan na galing po sa Camp Crame. Sila nagbigay ng listahan yun .
Nevertheless, Councilor Ocampo supports a statement of Davao City Mayor to give Marantan a chance alongside the council's challenge.
Well, he should do his best, prove his worth. Kung talagang magaling siya at yung pinalit sa kanya hindi daw magaling. Kung ibig sabihin kasi kung pinalitan yung ganyan naman talagang reason kung pinalitan mo yung mga nauna sa iyo, ibig sabihin ikaw mas preferred, ikaw ang pinakamagaling sa lahat. He should prove his worth, no? Ipakita niya sa taong bayan, sa Davaoenos kung ano ang kanyang kakayahan. It's a challenge for him.
Meanwhile, Mayor Bastet deemed Torres' assessment of the peace and order situation in Davao City as unacceptable.
So, whatever mo mahitabuan Dre, out of the ordinary, ever since, maingon na si Torre, about Dre, pila lang kaadlaw niya, maingon natin sa conclusion na taga-great, tagingunan ni crime, anak, kunya karon, he's accusing his own men of creating false reports.
Mayor Baste added that Torre has no basis for his assessment of Davao City's peace and order.
Kani tawhanan kaning pulisan wa ni kuan. Like I said, without any theoretical framework, he comes to conclusions. O na ba siya thesis, o has he studied for it, wala man po. So kapag bright ang buang, maingon siya nga, inganin ni, kimoning Davao, mauni ko nakita na basahan.
To this, Mayor Baste has a challenge for Torre.
So, say mo gigamit na basis. Show us for you to conclude na yung na siya. Delikado sa Davao, okay, hindi na nagsusuntok ka, nagpapatay ng mga tao. Show me what framework, under what theory, na maingon ka na for you to conclude and do a massive reorganization of the police force in Davao City. And for the longest time, and historically, these men have performed very well. Outstanding ang Davao ever since. Di palagi ako, kaniadto pagkikain na this person, individual, who is a general appointed as RD, comes here with the so-called intelligence. Unya mag-conclude siya o gingunana.
To recall, the local government of Davao was surprised by the relief of 19 station commanders in the city, which Mayor Baste believes is part of the administration's political maneuvering against them. For God and beloved country, the Philippines, this is Queen Hannah Jane Sancho, SMNI News, Davao City.
According to a geopolitical analyst, as long as the leadership in the Philippines remain unchanged, the country will not achieve an independent foreign policy. Find out more in Jade Cabroso's report.
On Tuesday, 2 high-ranking American officials arrived in the country for a 2+2 ministerial dialogue. They are U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who met with their Philippine counterparts, Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo and Defense Secretary Gilbert Chodoro, to further strengthen the defense cooperation between the two countries. This marks the first time the Philippines has hosted such a meeting. Geopolitical analyst Professor Ana Malindug-Uy believes these actions by the United States are aimed at ensuring that the Marcos administration maintains its pro-American policy.
These are high-ranking and high-level officials of the United States. They're visiting the Philippines every now and then. Why is that? Kasi gusto talaga i-secure ng United States na you will not change your foreign policy. That you will be on our side no matter what.
Malindug-Uy further asserts that given the current political situation of President Bongbong Marcos Jr., he needs the support of America.
He also needs the backing of the United States for him to survive politically in the Philippines and even domestically. And he needs the backing of the United States to still have that kind of international image na sinususugan ng United States na, he's a good president.
The geopolitical analyst also emphasizes the Marcos family's interest in America, where they face a $353 million contempt order. Malindug-Uy also mentions two major issues confronting Marcos today: allegations of widespread corruption in his administration and accusations of illegal drug use, which Marcos has yet to directly address.
That's why if you will expect BBM to turn around and have an independent foreign policy out of the blue, that is not expected anytime soon.
Under Bongbong Marcos Jr.'s leadership, the country has pivoted towards America, especially regarding South China Sea issues, which contrast with the policies of the Duterte administration. There has also been an increase in EDCA sites in the country, which according to Malindug-Uy, signals America's use of the Philippines as part of the island chain strategy or the concept of military and political strategy for defense. Therefore, according to the geopolitical analyst, the Philippines will not easily break free from America as long as Marcos is president.
BBM's administration is already beholden talaga at saka na siya nandun na siya sa hawla eh. I don't think it can get out. The only thing that I see for the Philippines to go back to independent foreign policy na pinush ng Duterte administration is for the Philippines to have a change in leadership.
For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Jade Calabroso, SMNA News.
A peaceful and successful Kadayawan Festival. This is Davao City Mayor Baste Duterte's goal while challenging the city police office to ensure zero incident. Here's the report from Hanajan Central.
In just a few days, the month-long Kadayawan Festival will kick off in Davao City. Mayor Sebastian Duterte expects zero criminal incidents or any untoward incidents during the celebration, a directive he has given to acting DCPO Chief Colonel Hansel Marantan. Although he could not attend the send-off ceremony for the security cluster for the 39th Kadayawan Festival, held on Tuesday at the Davao City Police Office, Mayor Baste Duterte's orders are clear: maintain order and peace throughout the city's celebration. In a speech delivered by Public Safety and Security Office Chief Angel Sumagaysay, he emphasized that Davao City has long maintained peace and order. It is not surprising that according to Numbeo, Davao City remains one of the safest cities in Southeast Asia.
Alam naman natin na every Kadayawan, parating lahat tayo sa ground. Dahil doon din sa pinangahawakan natin. For so many Kadayawans in araw ng Davao, palaging zero incident. So, makaya ba natin yan ngayon? Tanong ko, yun ang challenge ko. Makaya ba yan natin ngayon? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. So yan din ang panghahawakan ko at ipapaabot ko yan sa ating principal, sa ating mayor, na sumagot kayo na kaya natin na again, na ma-achieve natin yung zero incident.
Meanwhile, according to acting DCPO Chief Police Colonel Hansel Marantan, Mayor Baste's marching order to ensure zero incidents for the Kadayawan Festival is a challenge.
Tinignan namin yung statistics. Last year, I've seen in the Google about 200,000 tourists who came and visit the Kadayawan Festival, the 38th Kadayawan Festival. We have seen the 8 focus crimes committed, and it's close to zero. And ngayon, it's a challenge. Narinig naman ninyo yung message ni Mayor kanina. So it's a challenge for us to make it zero. Paano? we had a lot of preparations already. We had a lot of CIMEX. Just this morning, pumunta si Regional Director, General Torre, to see if we are prepared or not. And happily, he is very much appeased.
According to Marantan, security is not only the responsibility of the PNP, but of the entire community as a whole. He encouraged public cooperation to achieve this goal. Retired Police Colonel Sumagaysay shared that more than 20,000 personnel from the PNP, AFP, various agencies of the Davao City government, auxiliary units, and force multipliers will be deployed in the city for the various events to be held throughout August for the Kadayawan.
We will be deploying 20,485. This is an integrated deployment, no? Security and safety cluster. And we have 661 per day na deployment, an average. This is a long month celebration.
Meanwhile, Colonel Marantan thanked Davao City Mayor Baste for the chance given to him to prove his ability to serve the people of Davao.
I just told him, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Anak ko siya, I will welcome you. Ano lang ko. Mayon ta, hoping that you will do your job.
The comment is thank you.
Meanwhile, Marantan also commented on Mayor Baste's challenge to PNP Region 11 Director, Police Brigadier General Nicolas Torre III, regarding the state of criminality in Davao City.
With your indulgence, please allow me not to comment on those statements. Please we concentrate on the Kadayawan Festival.
The Kadayawan Festival is set to kick off on August 8, showcasing the much-anticipated Pamulak and Indak-Indak sa Kadayawan events. The celebration will feature beautiful, stunning floats adorned with huge variety of flowers and fruits from the city and the whole region, alongside impressive dance performances by the Dabaweños. For God of my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SM9 News.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the Sun. Endurance is forged in the fire of adversity. And that's all for this edition. For more updates, you may visit sm9newschannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. For God and Country, I'm Deivid Lira, and this is Newsline World.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Subscribe to SMNI News Channel and turn on the notification bell to keep you up to date. Also visit our official social media accounts and join our community on Viber and Telegram.